Excuse me. And we're recording. Okay. Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Arshel Branch, and today is a very special episode. And before you start thinking that your screen is broken and that there's a split screen, well, there's a split screen, but your screen is not broken. There is a special guest today, and I'm just going to bring her in. So let's just go ahead and let's do that. Okay. You'll know what I mean when you see what she looks like. You'll know. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, Twinkster.
Hello, Twinkster. Okay, yeah, that's what we call ourselves. We call each other Twinkster. That's what we do. Um, okay,
Because
so
we're
before we
adorable.
get started, I just want everybody to know where they can find you first because they're gonna love you anyway. So just tell them where they can find you, everything, all of it.
Gotcha. Well, like she said, I am her twin. I am the older twin, have to say that. My name is Asia Branch. You can find me on X, Twitter at Asia Branch USA. On Instagram, it is Becoming Brazen USA. And you can find my brand new video podcast on YouTube. It's called Happy Go Lucky with Asia.
Awesome sauce. Okay, so there are a couple of things that I wanted to dive in. Well, maybe not a couple of things. Really, it just comes down to the same damn two people, right? Donald Trump, Kamala Harris. Not very different than what it normally is. So this I guess previous week or this week, he went to the Black Association for Journalists, and apparently Kamala Harris was supposed to be there, and it was going to be like this kind of a debate, kind of a thing. And there were some comments that were made by President Trump, and he did kind of go in on that reporter. So before I play any clips, what was your take on that whole thing? Because I watched some of it, not all of it, but some of it. What was your take on it?
I'm right there with you. Actually, I watched the entire thing because I realized that Harris Faulkner from Fox News was there, which was surprising. I got to be honest, though, I had no idea this association even existed. I don't think half the country, let's not front, 2/3 of the country didn't know what this association was until Trump said he was going.
Right. Do you remember that Rihanna song? What's that? I don't remember the
I
damn song.
remember the line though, turn your stucco to gold. We don't know the names of that song.
I don't know the song, but that lyric every single time we don't know about it. Trump shows up and it's like, oh snap, this is a real
This real
thing.
thing, it's like the word braggadocious. It didn't exist until he said
I know,
it.
because this is when you and I were still like we were Hillary supporters, but not. We were kind of
Hillary
like
supporters.
drifting away. We were,
Yeah.
because we were Hillary supporters. We were drifting, and we were watching the debate. And he said braggadocious, and was that
Yep.
and we were just like, that's not a real word. Because I was one of
It's
these
not a
people.
word.
In the
I
comments,
was
people were
too.
saying, "Oh, you're so smart
I
and
think I was one
articulate."
of the people that Googled it in
I
real time.
googled it too because I'm like, that's not a
Word.
real word.
But no lie, I felt like I didn't know what this was. Everyone
Yeah,
was saying he was going, and it was like, what the heck is this? But then, I saw the three journalists, and I'm like, I'll watch the highlights. But then I saw Harris was there, and it was like, okay, well, let me watch the whole thing because you don't know when she's going to speak, but she's going to speak throughout the whole thing. And so when you got to it and that first question popped up, it was like, okay, so my show is very, very Christian. So I'm going to try not to swear on here because I'm not on my show. I want to try to stay consistent. But it was like, which?
she said,
Like,
"Which?"
where's the respect? It's like, no, good afternoon, good afternoon, Mr. Trump or former President Trump. After everything, how are you and how's the wife? How are the kids after everything? That was the way to start it. But no, she came off all hostile. I'm not surprised he responded that way because
Right.
he's old school Trump. I mean, no lie, after he got shot, he was a little bit more calmer. But I think these last couple of weeks, and then that woman asked that question the way that she did, I'm like, no, he's old school Trump. You disrespect him, he's going to disrespect you
Right. So I'm
right
gonna go
back.
ahead and I'm gonna play literally it's just that section of it where you see the first few questions that are asked and you see his response. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna play that one right now. Let's go ahead and do that.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black.
Okay, first, Harris' face, though.
It's because, no lie, I watched Harris when she went on Hannity right after she did this, and she pretty much said, I was surprised that this was the first question because she knows how Trump can be.
Yep.
And she said, if you start off with a hostile, real personal question like that, then you're not going to get to the substantive stuff because he's going to be hostile now. And it's going to be hard to get to him for anything else.
And he does really well playing off the audience too, because that's why they're pulling audiences out of the debates, because he plays really well. And Harris' face though is
wait a minute, they were pulling people. Oh, you mean like in general? I thought you meant they were pulling people out of here.
Oh no, not out of here. She said, "Don't get me started." No, I had to pause because I'm looking at Harris' face. I'm like, okay, something has to be said. Her whole face.
She's like, oh no, she didn't.
Why? Okay, I'm gonna push play.
Okay, so I want you before you hit play, I want you to keep your ear out because there's a moment. I don't know. It's while the woman in blue is talking, or when Trump is talking. Camera's not on Harris, but Harris says something. I think she says something along the lines of "Wow."
Okay, I'll listen for it.
Journalists calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country. I think it's a very nasty question. I have answered the question. I have been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI high.
Okay, so she's Asian? Okay, she said Asian?
Because I didn't hear Asian.
Wait a minute.
I'm not even gonna lie. No lie. After he answered her first question, I was barely listening. I did not catch that Asian crap. When was she Asian?
It's like,
you know what? Asian, that's not Christian to say. I was about to say she was another fang, but that's not right.
Well, we're going to get to that later. But I do want to get to the rest of this part.
You heard Harris? I know. Did you hear Harris go, wow?
I did hear her go, wow. But I really laughed because, the laughter, the audience, because, he's funny and he plays off the audience really well. And honestly, I think that's, because on the debates, they're pulling audiences, but it's also possible
because it was as good as
audiences because they didn't want Biden to be so distracted that first debate, only debate.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're pulling audiences, but he played off really well. It's like,
he really did. And even though that there are people in there that don't like him, I like to think that it was the journalists sitting in the front that were, getting angry and hostile. But you can clearly tell that this was a mix of electorate and media. Yeah. Because you can hear, yes, everybody was laughing, but when he was actually giving substance, you could hear the support, and it was dim because they're in the back, whereas the boos and the anger
coming from the front because they're closer to the microphones. You can hear that.
To the
person who clipped this video, because I didn't want to go looking for the whole thing, but the person who clipped the video, because, just as he was about to answer, you can see that it cut to him continuing saying that she was a nasty reporter and all the rest of that. But in that whole back and forth with her, he does go into some of the policies that he had, the opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott, He also had the First Step Act, which, funnily enough, we know that Kim Kardashian played a role in getting
You
a
know what? I
Alice
thought that was
Johnson out of
because
prison.
I watched the entire thing. I was surprised that he didn't mention any of the prison
The
reform that he
prison
had done
reform.
with the First Step Act. I was kind of surprised
Yeah.
because I'm like, that
He
was
also went
really
into the
significant.
HBCU funding, as well, which Obama never did. So,
Yeah. I get that's a
the
big
joke.
deal, but it isn't.
Big deal because Obama didn't do it, but not such a big deal because
Because
now
college
people are looking
campuses
at
are hubs for
college
propaganda and
communism
sadism.
and yeah, I think now. So great for bullet points, but in the long run, just how good is it
Not that.
exactly?
It's insignificant.
Insignificant. I love that we're geeks. Okay, I'm gonna finish the rest of this clip on where we talk about her race. 'Cause apparently, she's Asian. Because what are they saying? And forgive me if I'm off geographically. Was India ever really a part of Asian? Like, put that in the comment section, guys, because I'm genuinely asking. I sound smart, but some things I really am genuinely asking questions about. I'm gonna finish this off and let's see what else he has to say about that.
Higher. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
Give me a
literally
definition
the
then.
words
Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously.
Okay, so we saw that, we heard that, because
You
it's like a legit question. Is she Indian or is she Black? Like, she could be a hybrid, like you and I, we're hybrid babies,
right, we're hybrid
so
babies. Yeah.
we're Black Hispanics, we're not just of one race. And even though we might have spent more time with just one part of the family, doesn't just erase the fact that we are hybrid children. So this is
Right.
also possible that she's both Black and Indian, but it seems that when you look at her record, she's always been acknowledging her Indian self, but never has said that she was a Black woman. She used her Indian heritage as a way to announce herself in the political world when she was the Attorney General of California, when she was becoming the senator for California. She was always Indian. Now, I did
I
have,
think even when she was becoming the DA in California, I
even
think
as a
somewhere
district
in
attorney,
San
she was
Francisco.
always Indian. And, our family going all the way back to our grandmother, they've always, I'm not saying it's the right thing to say. It could be offensive, but I'm just saying my grandmother started this. We would refer to these types of Indians as dot busters. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just quoting my grandmother.
It was dot busters? I
It
thought it
was
was
dot
dot
busters.
heads.
No, dot heads, dot busters. Well, grandma said dot busters because our older sister, the comedian Testimony, would say dot busters. Now, it's possible that she ad-libbed, but that's what our
That's what she
grandmother
said.
used to refer
You
to them
know,
as. And I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying that's right. That's just what our grandmother used to refer to them as. And when you look at the pictures of Kamala Harris, growing up, this was very much an Indian family. And we now know that her father is coming out saying that he's never identified as a Black person, that he's
yeah,
got some
I would
Irish.
have to say, because actually I talk about this in my next episode. Like I do reference the clip that you just shown in
Mhm.
my next episode.
Nice.
But the primary focus is about the bait and switch of her racial identity. Personally, when people
Yeah.
ask me what my race is, like how you get those applications for whatever the heck, and then
Yeah.
they ask you what your race is, and I literally go down to other, I check other, and I write in Christian because I'm not getting caught up in that nonsense. Because what if they don't have Hispanic? They never have Black/Hispanic. So it's like I'm just gonna write in Christian because that's the only thing that seems to cut across all of this nonsense. And
Yeah.
so I obviously my show Happy Go Lucky, I talk about everything from a Christian perspective. And so I look at this with her racial bait and switch. I'm like, I look at that from a Christian perspective, and it's like, okay, but now you're trying to convince us that you've been black your whole career, not her whole life, right? Because let's be
Her whole
clear, like
career. Yeah, I get straight Meghan
just her
Markle
whole
vibes.
career.
Now all of a sudden you're
I
black
hear you,
because it
because now
suits
all of a
you.
sudden you're black.
Do you
And
remember
then
Imitation of
honestly,
Life?
I never heard her say I'm black until Biden said, I want a black woman president. So
Yep.
I never heard black, not even when she was in the Senate. I didn't hear black woman,
Yeah.
right? I did not hear that. I heard person of color, woman of color, but I never heard she was a black woman. I
Yeah.
heard she was just a woman of color.
Yeah.
Now that Biden wants, or then when Biden said, I need a black woman, oh, I'm black. And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't get to just switch
It
between
became
Indian,
politically
black. And I'm like,
convenient
it's
for her
quite
to be
obvious.
black.
Right. I
And
was so surprised. No lie, because I think the focus of my episode is not primarily just on what she's doing with it politically, but the reaction to it, specifically from black women. Because no lie, I was so sure that they were the ones that were going to be caught up in that, I am black woman, hear a black woman roar. But
yeah,
they were the first ones
to
from
say
that.
she ain't black.
She ain't black. She's the first one to say it.
Yeah,
They
because
were the
I'll
first.
say that's one of the most interesting things about it because, you'll see people like Megyn Kelly asking, is this a smart strategy for Trump to question her race? Are we not playing into identity politics with this? And to be honest, I don't necessarily think that this is identity politics here. I think that this is one of the most, not just offensive but bizarre acts of blackface. She's a person of color, but she's not black. And
Oh,
you
you're
see a
gonna
white
piss people off
person.
with that one.
Probably, but because this is like the legitimate question here. It's like she's
Yeah.
never been black until he needed a black president and a vice president, excuse me, and now she's
Yeah.
black. It's politically
I would
convenient. And
say
it's no different than, in the movie Imitation of Life, the girl was obviously both
unfair
black
skin.
but had white in her lineage. And so when she was born, she was on the fair skin. They just assumed she was white. And so she pretended to be that because it was beneficial to her in a time of prejudice and racism, that it was better for her to be white.
Yeah.
So that way she can get the jobs and
So
she can get the guy she wanted. And so here you have Kamala Harris in the same situation as the character from Imitation of Life, where here and
right. But what I would say is I think it's a valid question to ask, right? I
the
do
most
think it's a
bizarre and offensive
valid
blackface I've ever seen.
right. I do think it's a valid question to ask. Like, is this is it a good idea for him to do it? I think it's a valid question. Now the answers that I've been hearing, even to when Megyn Kelly asked the question, and the people she had on her show, because I don't watch them,
Yeah.
but I watch her every now and again, and their response was if questioning whether she's Indian or black is tied into showing that she's a phony and that everything that she does is for political convenience, then it's a good idea. And I agree with that, because I'm like, if you're just doing it just to pick a fight, then no, it's not a good idea, considering, they
Right.
aren't going to make the mistake that they made with Hillary Clinton, where, oh, she's going to win it, we don't need to cheat. They're not going to
Yeah.
make that mistake this time. So they're going to try and create this delusion, or illusion, I should say, that it's a close race. And if they believe that he's being a bully or racist just for no reason, then, I mean, he's not being any of those things at all. But if they paint it that way, then it'll play into that illusion that this is a close race. So as long as he ties it into her being a fake and a phony, and her
Yeah.
being her being deceitful and her political maneuvers, whether it's got something to do with her segregated Jews or
Yeah.
her race bait and switch, or I want to frack. I don't want to buy you guns. I want to secure the border. Yeah, right, failed borders are. As
Right.
long as he
Because
does that, then I think it's
because
a great tactic. But if
and we did
he's
see, I'm
doing
not
if
gonna
he
pull
doesn't
up
tie it in, then it's not.
yeah, because I think that one of the things that's bothering me about this whole thing is that they're trying to make it seem as if we're trying to play identity politics. And I think as conservatives, we know, well, race is irrelevant, just like gender is irrelevant until
agree.
the left makes it relevant. That's just really what this is. Like, we're not the ones out here saying
Right.
that,
Because side
you
note,
know,
we didn't care if pilots were women or men as long as they were qualified. Remember that chick pilot?
it's like, yeah, I don't know her name, but
Let me off
there's
this
that
plane.
musical. It's and here's the I know how we feel about some of these streaming platforms, but Apple TV has come from away, and it's by far one of my favorite musicals. But it goes into a female pilot who was, flying a plane in the middle of the whole 9/11 thing, and no one was questioning the pilot being a female, especially in the middle of all that confusion and tragedy.
Right.
No one was asking, you know, oh, we need to have a male pilot during this time. Like, no one was asking that. Then the DEI stuff starts, and now it's a question. Like, you're
Like,
the
are you
ones who made this
qualified?
relevant. We weren't asking prior to. No one cared. Really, nobody cared.
And you
I
know
think
what about
just really what that is.
I feel like he could have just said yes. I mean, based off of, I mean, it wasn't a definition, right? Because all she did was give you the word for the acronym
That's it.
DEI.
It's like, why is it a
But
definition? Because every
but
word she said
let's
has its own
say
definition.
it does. So it's like define it. It's like when I say I'm a Christian supremacist, right? It's like, well, people need you to define that. Otherwise, you're like, well, what the heck does that mean? And so I look at DEI. Okay. So on the basis of what she said, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, then that does mean Kamala Harris. If she's all these multiracial hybrid
Yeah.
baby,
And
right?
that's the thing.
And then
They're
she's
making
a
it seem as
woman,
if
right?
yeah.
So it's like you're including women. You're including a woman.
Yep.
She's like the ultimate hybrid baby. If she's all of these races, Jamaican and Asian
And
and Indian
Irish
and all of
and
this,
black.
and Irish and black, all of these diverse
It's like
is in her. And then equity. Well, she damn sure didn't get it from qualifications.
at
So
all. And to
how
be
did she
honest,
get to this outcome? It wasn't because she worked for it.
well, actually, let me not. I won't say it. I'm gonna let Judge Joe Brown say it. So I'm gonna play the other clip of
Yeah, I saw that. It's cracking up.
I'm gonna play the other clip of Judge Joe Brown because I saw this clip. Well, I saw clips of it. I didn't watch the whole thing yet. Then I went to watch some of it. I didn't
Well,
finish it,
before you
but
play it, I
yeah.
want to ask you, do you think anyone in America really cares about Kamala's past as he describes it in that video?
I think black men care. I think black men care. I
Touche.
think women, regardless of race, unless you're conservative Christian or Christian conservative, then so I'll say if you're a Christian conservative, it matters. If you're a black man, atheist or Christian, it matters. Because there's the manosphere and the whole thing of women are 304s, and when she had that whole bit with Taraji P. Henson, I be in these streets, and you and I, our whole thing was, for someone who's
With
got the
your
rumor,
past,
yeah, for someone with your past,
that was the dumbest thing she could
it
possibly say.
was because in the manosphere, every time you find one of these women that they refer to as 304s, what do they say? She belonged to the streets, and here she is
Word.
saying, I be
It's
in
like
these
being
streets
a
and I
white
do
man
that.
who has a slight prejudice walking around the Bronx saying, I don't like niggers. Like, that was stupid.
Right. It's like,
Like,
yeah, that was
that's the
dumb.
worst. That's the
It's the
worst
worst
thing
thing
you
you
can
could
do.
say.
You
It's like
have a
maybe
prejudice and then you said it.
it's like, right. So maybe don't, because she
Do
just
that.
like walked right into that. So I do think that it matters for Christian conservatives, and I think regardless of race or gender, if you're a Christian conservative, but I specifically think it matters to black men.
Yeah.
You and I
Yeah.
are
I
watching
thought the exact
B
same thing because
Tatum.
I say that in my new episode coming out
Yeah.
soon. I say the exact same thing. I'm like, black men don't take her seriously because of her past. And I didn't have to show the Judge Joe Brown thing.
Yeah, because be honest, you and I are watching Brandon Tatum. He's a great podcaster, and he was going through all the different men. And I can't remember the one
Oh,
gentleman, but he was going in on her. So much language, and it was hilarious. And it's like, oh, dang, he's going in on her. But it was
yeah.
because of her past. So I am gonna
Promiscuous.
play
Yeah.
that clip of Judge Joe Brown because it's. I want your reaction to it here.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And I want to backtrack to a comment you made earlier about the casting couch. So that's true? Like, because I always heard this rumor that she slept her way to the top. That's true?
She did. She's old. You 60 years old.
wait, you gotta pause.
You want to find out about it.
Because you remember Meet the Browns?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Nat Steho.
I'm like, yo, I can't
Oh,
wait to show
gosh.
this to testimony. I'm like, yo, because she's gonna
I know,
go.
because you know she gonna pull out some. I wish we could pull her on this right now. I'm not even gonna lie, because this is hilarious.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Next
Next
time,
time, I'll
next
bring
time.
her on. Next time, I'll
I
bring her on.
say
She's
every
funny.
Friday night or every other Friday, at least 2 Fridays. Let's try to do this.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'll try to get.
Let's see if we could,
get the other one up
reunite
here
what we
because oh
get
man,
get Tessa up here.
because
And
you got me
definitely have
crying
her
about it.
react to this. Before you hit play, I have to say, the problem with America today is that things move so fast that we memory hold stuff so quickly that we don't really have the time to marinate in it. Like the fact that they memory hold the crap out of that assassination. So this is definitely
Yeah.
something you don't want to memory hold too soon. It's too funny.
It is too funny because the second he
Showing
said
this
it, the
to
first
her,
time I saw this clip, yo, I
meet the Browns,
instantly thought,
nasty. I'm sorry for our language, ladies and
because
gentlemen,
you already
but this
know
is
I'm
what
about.
happens when the Twinksters get in a room together.
I know, mad culture references. We do love our movies, yo.
We do old movies, not this new sycophant
Well,
woke crap.
yeah, that's true. Meet the Browns was early 2000s, people. We're talking before 2010.
Listen,
I
and if
think.
you talk to a 12-year-old, that's old.
She said that's old. Word. My youngest goddaughter just turned what? She's 8 now. So yeah, I'm gonna rewind that because that was hilarious.
Her way to the top. That's true.
She did. She's a old hoe. She's 60 years old.
An old hoe.
Look, if you want to find out about it, go online to the LA Times morgue. They used to have it so for a fee, you could get them to pull articles. They've been reporting on her for 30 some years. She's in her 20s, and Willie Brown took her up as his mistress. There was a medical firm that dealt with San Francisco. He got her a 15-hour-a-week part-time job there, which she never showed up to, according to the Times, but they paid her $72,000 a year for 15 hours a week. And understand, she's in her 20s, which is 30-some years ago. That's
That's a lot of
big
money
money
then.
now. So he got her promoted up, so she did 20 hours a week. Times reported she
I'm gonna
never
pause
showed
because
up.
I don't want to have any problems with this stuff.
Copyright, yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, 15 hours a week for over $70,000. But back then that was a lot more than it goes further now. But I'm like,
Tell me
15
about it. I
hours
mean,
for
at my day
70,000.
job,
She
that
didn't show
was
up to work. And she didn't show up to work.
we would have been fired.
Like, bitch, excuse my
I'm
language.
like, word, because you know what? I
Let me
gotta
get
say it.
15 hours.
It's not like she was. It's not
For
like how
70,000.
Elizabeth Taylor did the casting couch and then did an Academy Award-winning performance in Cleopatra. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
this
She
woman
actually did the
should have
work.
been able to. Right. It's like between. If I had to say it, like no lie, like I get like it was between her and Joan Collins, right?
Yeah.
But Joan wasn't willing to do the casting couch. Elizabeth was. But if you were to ask me, Elizabeth still not only had more of the eyes on her, but if she was a better actress in that day, and she was just better for the role. So I'm like, she shouldn't have had to do it. So Kamala is no Elizabeth Taylor. Like
right.
there's
She
no
didn't even
talent
show
there
up to do the
anyway.
job. So even
Right,
for the
there's
15 hours, you could have been showed up for 15 hours.
and you know what? Maybe
The
that's
same
why
thing with
she has no
Chelsea Handler,
skills.
right?
Maybe that's why she has no skills, because it's like, your job is
Yeah.
where you learn a skill set. Like you have a basic understanding of how to do things, how to organize things if you're female.
Right.
But then you apply that, home school, that home education to the day job with organizing and I'm assuming it was like somewhere, working at the front desk, answering the phones or whatever. You could
Right.
apply that there
To
and
the
then
job.
build from there. She
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Because she wasn't showing up.
And
I'm
they
like,
think we're
this
supposed
is
to be impressed by her law degree. I saw that on Twitter today. The guy who, I think the co-chair of the National Black Journalists Association, he went out there and said, is it okay for someone who has no college degree to say that she is, what's the word, incompetent when she has a law degree? And I'm like, of course I had to retweet that and then put my own quote on it. And I pretty much said, first of all, you don't need a college degree to see that she's incompetent. And then I had to go, I had to kind of clap at Kamala and say, through the significance of time, what is it? What did I say? The significance of time showed she sucks as VP. And she will if she takes control of the country.
Well said. Significance of the passage of time. Jerry played that for Tessa. She's like, why the hell is she talking like that?
we played it side by side, and she's like, "No, I know that's Veep. Why is Kamala talking that way?" It's like
It was
because
hilarious.
she's like maybe she has bad speech writers.
He
That
fired
doesn't
like a
matter.
dozen of them and still can't get it right.
92% turnover rate. That sounds familiar.
Yeah,
That's an
I feel
inside
like
thing
she's
between me and you.
probably
You know what
second to the Secret
I'm
Service.
talking about. Your audience won't know, but that's an inside thing. 92% turnover rate because the boss sucks. Yeah, I know what that means. I know what that is. And I
Right,
hate
right,
to
right.
say it, but it's like,
When the boss
it's a
sucks.
word that rhymes with witch. Like you don't
Yeah,
have to be that way
to get the
to
job
get
done.
the results. And
Yeah.
then you make it miserable for people to want to be in there. And then you want to tell people, oh, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Stand when I come into the room. Address me as
Yeah, and it's,
Madam Vice
I've
President.
had,
Listen, we're here to do a
my
job, and
entire
you are
working life.
incompetent. And I
Yeah,
can't, she's not a situation where you can put glitter on stucco and say
yeah,
it's gold.
yeah, no.
It's not working.
Because that's the
She's
thing.
no,
So
her
it's,
staff weren't
you
Rumpelstiltskin
know,
where they could turn straw to gold. She was not that.
yeah. Because I mean, to be honest, they because we said the same thing about I say the same thing about, Barack Obama. It's like, I think majority of the people voted for him because they thought, he, ran on hope and change, and he was a black man, and he's a hybrid child, he's hybrid,
Mhm.
and he didn't run as a biracial individual, which, I think if we're going to say that America is a melting pot, then what's the problem with someone being hybrid and being biracial and running that way? It would be a perfect representation of what America actually is. And, she has the same opportunity of doing that. If you're Indian and you're black and Jamaican, you got Irish in there, you're a melting pot. And she could have used that to her advantage if she wasn't lying about her race. And then you have her history of sleeping her way to the top. Judge Joe Brown does go in further
Yeah, he
into
does.
her, relationship with Willie Brown. And even on Megyn Kelly, they were talking about it. And,
Yeah, and
that's
I
part of
saw
the
that a
problem
lot
here.
of people, like a lot of podcasters, new media, old media, well, old media not so much. I'm talking about
Mhm.
Fox News, right? Like they really weren't trying to talk about her promiscuous history. They
Yeah.
really just wanted to focus on her bad record. And even today on the Five, Kennedy even said you don't even have to look at part of her, that part of her history, because her record in politics and in policy and in law was
Yeah.
just so dang bad. You don't even have to go there. And in some cases, and though I agree with that, I think you can just stand on how bad her record is. I think you totally can beat her on that. But that doesn't change the fact that majority of the electorate has that at the frontal lobe. Like they all know that black men
Yeah.
don't want to take her
And
seriously.
I'll say
Conservative
this
men don't take it
because,
seriously. Republican men don't take her seriously.
yeah.
And it's not just because of her record. They never took her seriously. I mean, even when she was cross-examining Kavanaugh, there was some semblance of references of who was she to talk to a Christian man like
Yeah,
a
I think
Catholic
it
man like
was
Kavanaugh or Christian.
the same
There was
thing
a
when
lot
it was
of
Amy Coney Barrett.
animosity because it's like, who are you to take anybody to task when you have this ugly past,
Yeah,
right?
and
So it was like
I'll say,
it's in the forefront of people's minds, even if mainstream media, meaning Fox, because we know the rest of them won't cover
yeah,
it, but even Fox, new media like Megyn Kelly, I think Joe Rogan may touch on it. He'll talk about it. I
yeah.
think people at the Daily Wire,
Well, Megyn Kelly's
don't
talking
know
about
that.
it, so I do,
Yeah, she is,
how
but
I feel about
I think
her.
I know she is, but I think she's doing it from a journalist perspective, like doing this whole "is it necessary" kind
Yeah,
of a thing,
and
and
this is
not
where this kind of gets
so
on my nerves
much.
because for
This is
me,
her
it's,
problem.
I think part of the problem that I have with this whole Kamala thing is so it's a problem if we talk about the fact that she's lying about her race. I mean, again, for me, this is by far the most offensive blackface I've ever seen. She was never a black person until it was politically convenient for her to be black. I mean, at least Meghan Markle can actually prove that her mother is black and she's actually a black person. When your parents come out and say this is not who I am, then you've been caught in
There's
a
some explaining to
bold
do.
face word. Like there's a bold face lie here.
Lie.
But it's not even just so much that she's lying about her race. There is her past with the, using her body to get favor in public office, from becoming the district attorney to becoming the attorney general to becoming a senator. And, I don't believe she had to sleep with Joe Biden to become VP. She just had to be
It was
black.
chicken
So,
pox.
that was probably the one job she didn't have to,
She's
do
too
that
old
stuff
for Joe.
for. Hilarious.
I
That's
mean, that's one of
hilarious.
the points Judge Joe Brown was making in his video,
It's like,
right?
right,
He
she
said
would
that
be,
because she's an old hoe. I hate saying it, but because she's an old
yeah.
hoe, like let's say this was back in the day and you brought her over to Socrates or to anybody who wanted to, like, what do you
Hilarious.
mean? I got younger
Yeah.
stuff in my country. Take that back. Like that's
Right.
how he
'Cause
was referring
and
to
then
her.
it goes further for me because it's not just about her record as, sleeping her way to the top. It's not just that she's lying about her race. It's also how she got the nomination. Because I remember when they were after the
It's
debate between
illegitimate.
yeah, and if you're America First conservative, you know how we feel about the 2020 election.
Yeah.
You know how we feel about Kari Lake's governor's race against Katie Hobbs. Like, you know how we
Oh,
feel. And if you're an America First conservative, then you probably have the same feelings about it. Sorry, but when the wrong branch of government passes election laws, like when the Supreme Court of your state passes election laws, automatically any ballot counted in that line of
is
in that
invalid. And
is
I get your
invalid.
point because you're pretty
And
much saying because of the framework of
mhm.
how he selected his vice president should automatically make this an illegitimate pick simply because
And
it wasn't a just framework of how he was selecting her.
well,
It
here's
was
the
all
thing.
about DEI.
Well, I'll say
I'm not
this. I'm
saying
not
legitimate like legal or not
Well,
because,
I'm speaking
I'm not
about
saying
it
it's
from the
suggesting
legal
that.
perspective. From the merit perspective, obviously, he didn't go based off of merit. Because to be frank, if he was going to go
Right.
based off of merit, I probably would have chose
So you
Cory
think it
Booker
was
before I chose
you
Kamala.
think it was illegal him choosing Kamala?
No, no, no. I'm not saying that was illegal. I'm not speaking about how she became vice president. I'm talking about how she became the nominee for the president of the United States. Like, I'm talking about this election here.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel legitimate. So, not only do we have issues with the fact that she's lying about her race, because she is,
Yeah.
she's lying about her race. She's not a black woman. And plethora of black people have come out and said she's not black. And once in a while, you'll have a black woman come out and say she's black, she's black, she's black, but she's not. Even Don Lemon on CNN at the time said she's not black, she's not black. And someone tried to argue with him saying, well, she was born here and yeah, she's not black. And he just kept saying it over and over and over again. She's not black, she's not black. I believe it was the Conservative Perspective who pulled up that clip. So anybody who likes his channel, if you don't subscribe, go there, and he has the clip of Don Lemon because I'm not going to play it here. But
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
think
right,
Megan Kelly showed that same clip too.
right. So it's everywhere. We're not the only ones who are suggesting that she's lying about her race and has been lying about her race. Even people on CNN were arguing about it. Don Lemon was saying this. So she's lying about her race. How she got to power is, immoral and questionable. And I'm not saying immoral like as if Trump has had the perfect past. The difference is he's not lying about it. He's not hiding it. He's cheated on his wives. He's slept with porn stars. He's not lying
I
about it.
don't
He's
know
not
if you're
hiding about
hearing
it.
that. I apologize for the dog
Um,
barking if you can hear it.
it's fine. It's not that loud, so you're right. But he's not lying about it. Where she is, she's trying to hide her past, get away from her past. And it's funny. It was in an episode of Ryan's Hope. Actually, I love my old soap operas. And he was saying, listen, someone's going to run for office. We believe as the public that how they behave in their private life is
Right.
how they're going to behave in their public life. And if you can lie about your race, about your past, then why am I to believe anything that you say? But on top of her past, and it's the fact that people didn't vote for her to be the nominee. Like, there was no
I would have to
primary
say,
for
like,
her. This seems
I loved
illegal to me.
how they pretty much called the threat to democracy, and yet they literally undermined the rule of the republic.
Right.
Right? Because
Because
people have this thing that we're a
Republicans had the
democracy. No,
opportunity
we
to
are
vote
a
it,
democracy. Right. We
They
are
had
a
the
democratic
opportunity to vote.
republic, and there is a democratic process to
Mhm.
ensure that the republic stays just. And they totally undermined it when they made Kamala, when they anointed her the
Mhm.
queen of the Democrat Party, the now presidential candidate for the Democrats. And I think that's part of the reason why Black people and people in general, the Democrat Party, I mean, the fact that Black Lives Matter came out and said that they wanted to rush to a primary.
I know. And
Simply because that was surprising. And I'm like,
we
this is the time where you're going to see unity
Mhm.
because they're so bad. Do you remember I remember when Biden won, and it was like, we saw what we saw on the screen and
Yeah.
liberals didn't. And it was like, okay, well, first team must suffer. And it sucks that we have to live with that suffering as well. But maybe by the end of this and within the first year, because we said we'll be quiet
Mhm.
the whole year, you won't have us complaining or, bitching, excuse my French, this entire year. And within that same 1 year, everybody was complaining about gas. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
war is breaking out in the Middle East. And that was just the first year. So it was kind of remarkable to see how not only did the Biden vote with each passing year, but a
Mhm.
demographic that you just thought, and I'm not talking about Black America in general, I'm talking specifically about Black women, because they are all, I am Black woman, hear me roar. And the thing that gets me the most about Black women specifically, because they are the ones, I mean, Black liberals, I think, do it always. They take the pain and suffering of slavery and Jim Crow and segregation years, and they bring it into their woes of today, right? And then they get upset when the very thing that they complained about and that they say that the right is responsible for, it's the left that's doing it. Oh, it's going to be the right that takes our rights to our right to vote away. It's going to be the right that does
And
that.
that's the
And
thing.
look at what just
Right.
happened.
They want to
Kamala
talk about voting rights, and you
Harris
didn't get to
becomes
vote
your
for her.
candidate without you voting, but it's us on this side. And
Right.
then Joy Reid had the audacity, oh, you're going to be lonely. You're going to be chick. Who are you to take any Black person to task that does not want this woman? And then remember, I did my episode that I aired recently. Again, people go to Happy Go Lucky with Asia on YouTube, because I just released this episode, and I share this video posted by this guy. I think he's called Too Raw Too Real. I found it on Twitter, and he's this gay man who pretty much was telling, like, talking about the ATL rate campaign
Rally. Yeah.
rally, and saying and getting mad at Black women for
For
being
not appreciating
disgusted
it.
with that. And he was telling Black women off. And I'm like, okay, so you and I are hybrid babies, and I already
Yeah.
only identify as a Christian. I don't say I'm a Black Hispanic woman. I just say I'm a Christian woman. But let's say I'm Black Hispanic. I'm playing the race game. Who are you to take me to task? That's how I felt about that guy.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about Joy
And
Reid.
that's the
I'm not even a Democrat, but y'all, they run around here. These Biden voters run around. Oh, the right is going to take it away. The woe
yeah.
from
Funnily enough,
yesteryear is
I
responsible for your woes for today,
yeah.
but it's the left again. The segregated Zooms.
It's
It's
ridiculous because here's
them.
the thing.
It's the
I
it's
there
the
was
regression.
a
The very
comment
thing
I
that they
had
say the
in
right are responsible
yeah.
for, the
It's
left are
projection
guilty of,
much.
and they're doing it again.
Yeah,
Projection
I mean, here's the thing.
much.
I had someone in my comments
But it
because
is all
I
about
remember
presentation.
watching your episode about the rally, and in my episode, you and I are both saying, it's alleged, Black Americans
Yeah.
were leaving
My favorite
after
part of your episode
um
was when you couldn't get the video to stop. Stop. Like, I
because
can't anymore.
I couldn't
Go.
I couldn't do it anymore. But I had someone in my comments actually say to me that they saw the video footage. So I do have for my comment, someone responded and said to me that, oh no, it's real. There was video footage of Black Americans leaving the
It's real.
ATL rally after Megan Thee Stallion performed.
So I said allegedly too in my
Yeah,
episode.
I said
There's
allegedly because I
video.
didn't there is video footage. There is video footage out there
Please
of
tell me
Black
you have that
Americans
clip.
leaving. I'm actually still searching for it. I'm inclined to believe this individual because, it's like there's video footage, then this is gonna
Yo,
be hard
whoever
to just
left that
prove.
comment, please leave a link to that video in the comments on here, so that
Yeah,
way
because
we can
I
see it.
do wanna cover that again because it does show that, it does go into the sense of morality sake because again with your podcast you do go into the Christian faith and how that is applied to our reality, not just in culture but also politically. And there's a lot happening with this election. I think even what we saw with the 2020 election, everybody was fuming, we were upset. Obviously the January 6th thing was problematic. And then there was Pastor John MacArthur who said, but first you must suffer. And it like
Mm.
calmed a storm. Just Christianity, just the scripture, just, you know what? It's unfortunate. We're going to suffer out here. Like we're the traitors to to America, but it's just something that has to happen. And then since Biden became the president, or he was acknowledged,
All
I'll
these
say more
truths
accurately,
came out.
all these truths, first people who were saying that they were conservative, some of them started off as never Trumpers. This was Ben Shapiro, this was Megyn Kelly saying, oh, there was no cheating, there was no cheating. And they switched from there's no cheating to, okay, there was some cheating, just not enough to change an election. And now we have information coming out about thousands of votes being found in Georgia for Trump. People are getting arrested for election fraud. And if it's too late, I mean, even Kari Lake's election was up for appeal again because there was so much information coming out about that. And so because all this stuff is happening, Christianity just came in and put us at ease to the degree because, of course, Biden makes everything worse. But what is your take on how when you see everything that's happening, and because this election is bizarre. Since 2016, I don't think we've ever had a calm election. 2016, it was crazy. 2020, Biden campaigned from the basement. And now, it's all over the place.
I would have to say, I mean, very oi. I mean, it's really hard not to get enraged, especially by the coverage. And I don't mean the sunshine and glitter that they're using to cover the stench of Kamala's campaign. But my show is Happy Go Lucky, and I call it that because that's what I call my spirit. I call it my Happy Go Lucky, and sometimes my Happy Go Lucky runneth over with joy, and sometimes it's running on E because I'm so fed up. And so this election has you going up and down, up and down. Case in point, with after Trump was shot, I remember waking up and what? This is real? He was really shot? What the heck just happened? The RNC was such a great had such a great convention. I love the speeches that came that we saw that week. And then everything was memory hold from how great the convention was. And we started talking about Kamala being the new candidate. Biden is an acting president. Acting is the current president, and really we all know that's a bunch of hogwash. But what the heck is he what is he doing? And Kamala is selected just to be put there. I mean, it's been so all over the place emotionally that it's been very difficult to try to be hopeful about it. But on my show, because it is called Happy Go Lucky, even though throughout it I do get my emotions kind of go up on a roller coaster because I get very heated, I get very passionate, and I'm really much in my camera's face about it sometimes. But it's by the end I calm down and I'm okay, but then I find the good in it, right? Where's the good in all of the things that I point out that are pretty much bad? And
that's the Lord, right? Count it all as joy.
Count your blessings, right? Count all, when I fall asleep, count your blessings. That's song. What you want to find. You want to find all of the good things that come out of this this terrible campaign run. I mean, this entire election cycle has been god awful simply because Biden's been bumbling and fumbling, and we know his history. They tried to convince us for years that he wasn't crazy, senile. And then they released a report that says that he is, but then, oh no, but he's good enough to be president. I mean, there was so much going on.
Yeah,
so
even
as far
this
as this election cycle
is
concerned, I want him and Kamala to debate, but I want old school debating. I want it how Phyllis Schlafly and them used to do it back in the day. I want
the crowd.
At worst, I want it town hall style, the way it was with Hillary Clinton and Trump, where he, the pronoun. Right at the SNL skit, right? I want that kind of a debate because honestly, during COVID, we didn't get that between Trump and Biden. They were just right. And then again with this new debate like this, and so it's no, I want the audience, I want the crowd. Kamala, if she's saying, "Oh, I'm younger, I can do it. I'm 20 years younger than the acting president," then it's okay, well, if that's the case, then you can handle the town hall. That's if he's going to do it on a network like ABC, because he should be able to renegotiate. And it's stuff like that that gets you so rattled up.
And here's the thing, because one of the things that we do know about the Black Journalists Association convention,
is that even the name?
I don't know. Don't even get me started. We know that there were Black journalists, and it has the word association in it.
Don't even feel bad, because I think when I did my show, I was National Association, Black Journalist, Black Association.
I know it's Black Journalists, and it's got the word association in the acronym.
I kept calling it the Black
I'm listen, but one of the things that we know about that is that Kamala Harris was supposed to be there, right? She was supposed to be there and, debate me, say it to my face. And, her voice is irritating. I can't stand it. She was supposed to be there and she didn't show up. And everybody wants to talk about how, oh, he's questioning her race. I mean, no one wants to talk about the fact that she was supposed to be there too. I mean, at the very least,
and it's
you
how
could have
she
had
said
that
say it to my
because
face.
she's
Like,
trying to
what?
be
Why are you saying it
cool,
like that?
you know,
And
and then
what's up with
she's,
your face?
you know, and
Fix
here's
it.
the thing. Here's the thing. Long pauses, and you
You
and I
did it in
are
2020, and we'll help us in. I can't even finish that. Help
and
us
here's the
in
thing, you know,
2024. You know what she reminded me of? What was you is kind, you is smart, you is pretty. Like, why are you
Yeah,
talking
I'm
like
like,
Viola Davis in the house?
I'm fitting to use the line Viola Davis said to the chick at
You know
the
what?
end.
I'm about
Use
to
a
quote Judge.
godless
I
woman.
can't even. I can't even.
I'm like, word.
Side
She
note, Judge
lies and
Janicio really
lays.
did say that. She almost said bullshtaco on the
Yeah,
five
yeah.
today, and
No,
she
when she
went,
was talking about
I can't
Stormy
even.
Daniels and she said she lies
Lies
and
and
lays,
lays.
then you could
Oh
apply
man,
that to Kamala Harris. It's like,
unfortunately.
it's useful. Well, that's the thing. It's, there's this election cycle has been incredibly weird. Not just weird, but there's illegalities here, in my opinion. I mean, I don't even think this is just opinion because when Patrice Cullors and other Black Lives Matter individuals are saying that she was
Oh, that
selected
chick who
and not
committed fraud.
elected.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, yes, Patrice Cullors.
I
Yeah,
no lie, almost forgot about her.
hilarious. But yeah, she tweeted and said that Kamala was elected, was selected, not elected.
Wait,
Um,
she said that?
she said that. She said that, and so many other Black Lives Matter are
No
not really
way.
happy. Was it Patrice
See,
Cullors? I do believe it was Patrice
I knew
Cullors.
Black Lives Matter chapters came out and said something. I did not, no lie. She's been, after they
Yeah,
took the money away and she's been
yeah.
investigated, it was like, okay, one,
She's irrelevant now, yeah.
that's
But
one.
that's saying something. She should be in prison for what she's done. I think a lot of people who committed financial crime should be in jail. Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell would be one of them.
So that's
But
the guy who got the fang stuck on him, right?
well, no, Jerome Powell
Oh,
is
his employee got
his
fang
employee got fanged. Yeah, he got fanged. Because,
I
I
love how
think
we made that a
that
verb.
they should just be behind bars. And, apparently, Bitcoin is on it's on the ballot now as well. And,
Very
at
excited.
this last Bitcoin convention, on my last episode, I covered it from just speaking about conservatives and
Yeah.
Trump's campaign. But there are a few people that were there. I did wonder if Senator Loomis, the crypto queen, was there. And turns out she was there. She had something to say about
Yay.
it as well. Some of the crypto people that were there preferred RFK's speech to Trump's because they felt that Trump was just giving a speech. Some of it was about crypto, but the majority of it felt like a rally speech, which, this is not a rally. This is specific to a particular thing.
Yeah, I
One
heard that.
guy,
I
Mark
think
Moss,
they were
said,
talking about that on Patrick Bet David,
yeah, because
PBD.
I was watching it too, and I found myself, double tapping my screen to fast forward because I'm like, okay, when I want to watch a rally, I'm gonna watch the rally. The last rally I did, I stopped watching. The last rally I watched,
Well,
Trump got shot at.
so I,
But
though I understand the sentiment that it's not a rally, this is about Bitcoin. I felt like this was the perfect opportunity for him to convert, and so by
well, I think he did.
the
So
convert. Yeah, that's what I'm
that's what I
saying.
was
I
getting
felt the
into.
conversion
So
was.
yes,
I think
yeah,
his
so that's
speech
that's
did
what I
what
was
it
getting
needed
into.
to.
He did go into that in the beginning of his speech, saying that his sons know a lot about it, that not many people who are older don't really know about it. He said that it reminds him of the steel industry.
Yeah.
When it first started, not many people knew much about it, didn't care for it, and now it's turned into this incredible thing. And like RFK, he's also saying that he wants to create a Bitcoin reserve, similar to how we have with oil as well as with
So I
gold.
didn't see RFK's speech. What
I
exactly
didn't
did
s-
he say?
I didn't see RFK's speech either because I only watched Trump's. I was literally only there to watch Trump's speech.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah.
I watched people talk about who was there, and so there's this podcaster YouTube channel. His name is Mark Moss. I'm actually a subscriber to his
Mhm.
channel. He's a Bitcoin investor. He's a partner in a Bitcoin hedge fund, and he was going in actually on a couple of policies in the last episode that I watched of his, where in it he was talking about how Kamala Harris and the Biden Harris team are going to pretend to be supportive of Bitcoin,
Mhm.
but on the behind the scenes, they're actually trying to make it harder. During this administration, they've passed policies called the choke policy, which
Yeah.
anyone who's trying to turn their US money into crypto, they're having a hard time actually wiring the money from their bank accounts into those crypto platforms. So this is deliberate. And I've covered extensively why,
They don't want
we
that.
they don't want it. And so what the guy was saying, Mark Moss was saying, is that it's not so much that Bitcoin is on the ballot, but that financial freedom. And not we say financial freedom, you hear all these financial influencers saying financial freedom means wealth, wealth,
Oh,
wealth. And
tell me about it.
yes, that's a part of it. Yes, wealth is a part of it. But we're not just talking about so much in the wealth, but actually being able to control the money and the value of it.
Yeah.
And RFK was saying he wants a
I
reserve.
won't lie.
Trump
When
said the same
I was
thing.
so,
And so on the
I was
ballot, and
surprised.
Kamala's caught in a lie.
Yeah, I was surprised that Trump actually went to a Bitcoin rally. Considering a few years ago, it's not, he didn't have a bad opinion about crypto. He just felt
Mhm.
like, cash is king. I mean, really, you can't
I
really
still
dispute
hold
that.
that mentality.
But right, and I can understand that. To some degree I am too, but because I have such a serious disdain for the Federal Reserve and the note that comes with it, and I know the history with, because I live in Texas, and so I know the history with Texas currency, and that they actually had a competing dollar back in, I want to say this was the 1800s. Don't quote me, just Google Texas Lone Star
I do
dollar and
believe it
look
is
it
in
up.
the 1800s.
And so, yeah, I think so too. And so it's like, it had it. There was a competitor, and the Fed really just shut it down. They did not like the idea of states creating their own money. Now, they could have hid behind the guise of, well, this is after the Civil War, and you could use this to try to fund another civil war against the Union. I mean, there's a plethora of agendas they could have hid it behind. But ultimately, Texas knew why they would need their own money, because they knew that if you centralize it there in the North, then they will eventually have control over you. And so knowing that, I'm over the Fed. But I also understand the concern with digital money, simply because, well, all it would take to take us out would be just to drop an EMP. I mean, everybody just kind of knows that, right? I mean, you watch enough sci-fi movies, it's all it would take. This is why it's important for states to be independent and shoring up their own individual grids. I personally believe states should have their own currencies. It's the smartest thing ever. And the fact that he came to a Bitcoin conference and was actually talking about, and I love the fact that he acknowledged that I don't know much about this. My sons do. And they told me about this. And the way that they talk about this currency, I mean, you would think that's what makes Trump think it's like steel, because of how his sons talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general. Now, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that I personally just don't agree with because of their fundamentals. Personally, Bitcoin is king right now with all the cryptos, simply because it's, I'm not no crypto expert. I'm a crypto novice. I'm at the beginning of my crypto journey, sort of, because I think you and I have been in it for a while. But, trying to get a basic understanding of cryptocurrency, particularly in how to build wealth. But Bitcoin being built off of oil, gas, energy, there's no way you're going to convince me that there's
I
no way
will
anyone can
say,
convince me
because
that it
that
not being on oil is
yeah
that it being on oil isn't part of its
yeah
growth
that's
and
the
the and
thing.
the and
So
the
part
quickness.
of
Just think about
Trump's
it. You and I were
speech.
like 17, 18, I think, when Bitcoin came out.
Yeah, that
It's
if
not
he
like this is
had
a 20-year
invested.
industry. It's literally
Yeah.
only been around somewhere between
And
10
then you
and
and I
15
came into that
years.
money at
And so
18 if
in
only, right?
15 years, Bitcoin went from less than a penny to being almost to be going between $50,000 and $70,000 in a 15-year period. And it's like, well, I would have to say a lot of this has to be based on the oil and the energy,
Yeah.
putting toward that
So
computing
that's
power.
the
And
that's
so there's
the
the
thing in
fact
his
that he
speech.
wants to make Bitcoin a part of making America great, fixing the economy, securing our right to choose which currency we want to use.
Yeah.
If he shores up states' rights
Yeah.
to
Because
create their own money,
that's my thing,
that is going
because
to make him the crypto king.
yeah, because I'll say
That's
this,
what's going to make him the crypto king. Even if he doesn't understand it,
Bitcoin.
he just has
Yeah.
to
Well, that's the thing. So
protect the states' rights
in his
to
speech he
create
was
it.
yeah, in his speech he was saying that he wants to make sure that there's energy that gets involved in this. So he does want to drill, baby, drill. He did say that they're going to
Yeah.
need the energy in order to make it happen in that regard. So I
Yeah.
am very much looking forward to see how that happens, because I completely agree. I have issues with the Federal Reserve. The more I learn, this industry is that, well, not industry, but that
Corrupt,
entity
sadistic,
is
satanic,
just
pick.
in truer words, man, because when you look at the history of the Federal Reserve, it was created by the founder of the Federal Reserve was a Freemason. That our country has a history of fighting centralized banks. Alexander Hamilton was in favor of central banks, where Thomas Jefferson was not. Benjamin Franklin was not. And he did give
Mhm.
a speech saying that part of the reason why they ended up going to war with the
You know
British
what's
was
crazy?
because
I
of
remember you and I
the
having a
central
conversation about
banks.
this a few weeks back. And I
Mhm.
said, it just, the Federal Reserve on its face just seems antithetical to the founding of the nation. I mean,
Yep.
what the heck was the point of coming and creating your
And here's
own
the thing, even with
independent
choice of currency, they were
nation and
still able
trying
to
to,
pay
your
taxes.
goal was to decentralize power. That was the whole
Yep.
point of creating three
3
branches of government,
branches.
because you
Exactly.
valued decentralized power.
Exactly.
Why create the Federal Reserve? It just seems antithetical to the whole point of the matter.
Exactly. Like,
So
it
just,
doesn't
and from
seem like
that
it makes sense.
basic way of
Understanding.
looking at it,
It
I
doesn't make
knew
any
Federal
sense.
Reserve was a problem.
And
I
that's
didn't have to go
why
down the rabbit hole of
when
who started it
yeah,
and all that. It the math wasn't
yep,
mathing.
because it just doesn't. And that's why when I look at this whole thing with Kamala Harris, when I look at, oh, we're gonna they're gonna pretend to be nice with the Bitcoin people, with the
Right.
crypto holders,
Okay, so we've been on
I
here for an hour. Hate to cut you off, but I want to sip my glass of wine. It's too good to just let
oh
go. I'm
yeah,
just
it's
gonna
late,
take one.
yeah, have at
Yeah.
it, have at it. Do you want me to cut this out?
Oh no,
Or
it's fine. It's fine.
okay. Okay. um but yeah, I would say that the more I listen to the reactions from people about Kamala Harris, the crypto holders, this is not supposed to be a
Yeah.
political thing, but it's quite obvious that it's falling on the side of the conservatives and independents. I mean, you look at RFK, he's an independent and he wants to support Bitcoin, he wants to support cryptocurrency. And I'm a little disappointed with his advertisement because, all of his ads are focused on abortion, but you also have Bitcoin on the
What
brain
is
as
it with
well.
them thinking
I
that
don't I don't know
that's
what
all
it
anybody
is.
thinks about? I'm like,
I would
abort.
never vote
It's not
for
gonna
RFK.
matter because we're on the brink of nuclear war. There's no getting to the abortion if everybody's dead from nukes. There's
Yep.
no there's no way to get to the abortion if you die of starvation. There's no way to get to the abortion if you
Mhm.
die from being overheated or if you freeze to death because you can't afford your energy to keep, to heat you up or cool you
Right.
off. So it's like that doesn't matter right now
Right.
because
So depleting our
everything
energy,
else
killing the
doesn't
value of
help.
the primary source of the money that we use to pay for all of our necessities
Word,
for
and not to
survival, not
mention
even just
brink
the
of World
desires.
War III.
And
So
then
none abortion
word.
is irrelevant right now because no woman can go have an abortion if she's dead.
And that's really the thing, and that's really what this comes down to, because I think when you listen to, I would say, Black Democrats who are Christian, they'll say it doesn't matter, voting doesn't matter, the elections, none of this matters.
They annoy me with
They
that.
don't matter, but every time, like when you and I chose not to vote in 2016, even then, it doesn't matter. But they were upset with us that we didn't vote because Hillary lost.
Even though
So,
she
okay,
won New Jersey.
even though
That
she won New Jersey at the time. And it's like, she won New Jersey, we didn't vote, but she won New Jersey. And you're mad that Trump won, but it doesn't matter. So if it doesn't matter, okay, well, if it doesn't matter, then why'd you vote for Joe Biden in 2020? Because like, you could have just not voted at all because there's something you could have
yeah.
done. If it doesn't matter, why vote? So there is this sense of duality I sense with older Democrats, not just older, but just Democrats who are Christian, and they'll say that it doesn't matter, but then it does. And through my journey with the
I mean, they are
financial
the same
history,
crowd that said, when Trump was in office, they were the same crowd that said, someone needs to go and assassinate him. And then when he gets shot, they're like, oh, why didn't you tell him Trump
whoa, oh, woe is me. Don't act like he
wouldn't
didn't
wish
say
this
it.
on I
Yeah.
wouldn't wish this on anybody. I wouldn't want this
He's
to happen to my worst enemy.
spoken
I
out into the
remember when he was
universe.
in office, you said someone should
Someone's gonna have to
assassinate
kill
him.
him. Someone should. Someone's gonna have
Word.
to. Like,
And
he
you
said
know
those things.
what? Because I
Right. He
wondered,
said those things.
I have to say it, side note, how everybody was supporting Johnny Depp through the Amber Heard, I think that's her name, nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Why is nobody calling him out when he's the first one that said, he could be the next guy to be killed by an actor or something along the lines of that? Do you
Well,
remember Johnny Depp said
I do
that?
remember Johnny Depp said that, and I think it just kind of
Like,
people forgot
where's
about it. I don't, I think
course,
people just forgot about
short
it.
memory.
It's Is a question. Has he come out?
I
Because
didn't.
if he doesn't, if he hasn't come out and said anything about it, then we don't
No,
even
he hasn't. He
care.
hasn't said
You know.
anything. He hasn't said anything. No,
Well,
he's
that's what I'm
probably
saying.
the guy behind. No, I'm saying he's probably the Hollywood guy. Just like all of Hollywood was quiet. No one in Hollywood said anything about him being shot. No one in Hollywood did.
Yeah,
It
for
stayed
sure.
in the media. It stayed in the journalists, in the media crowd. It stayed at the politicians.
Yeah,
But no one in
because
Hollywood. The same people who were wishing him dead
yeah,
had
Madonna
nothing to
said
say when
she had
someone tried
dreams
to kill him.
about destroying the White House. She said,
With him
I've
blowing it
had,
up is what she said. I had dreams
yeah,
of blowing
I
it up.
wasn't trying to say it, but yeah, pretty much. I
Kathy,
mean,
where
that's
was
great.
what was her name? That actress with the severed Trump head. Where was
Oh,
she?
Kathy Griffin. Yeah. Who,
Yeah,
someone
where
just
were
did a
all of you?
video where they showed the severed head, and it's like, so, and that's another thing for me. It's that, we're not so moved, not, we're not moved by words, but,
Yeah, it's like
or that
these
we're not
Christians, these
offended by
so-called
words. I
Christians.
think that this whole idea of, you got to be careful about the things that we say. Should we be questioning her race? The election doesn't really matter. I mean, this has been, I mean, it's always the same. I would say, Candace Owens has made it clear that every 4 years they
Yeah,
always do the same thing over and over again. And Black Christians on the left always say that these elections don't matter, but when their candidate loses, they're upset. And when their candidate wins, they're happy. But if it doesn't matter, then why vote at all?
I
And
know. I would rather they don't, to be honest with you,
right.
because it's like, you
So
know,
so to close this out, I would say, because we talked about a series of things here. So we spoke about Kamala Harris, and well, first we spoke about Trump and the whole Black Journalists Association,
thing.
that
Yeah.
acronym that we don't really know. We spoke about Kamala Harris history from
Yeah.
Judge Joe Brown's response to everything that's been going on. We've also talked about
Mhm.
Bitcoin being on the ballot. So we spoke about a lot of things today, and how your podcast about bringing our faith into really the ridiculousness. Because, like I said, this has not been normal since Trump
Word.
came down the escalator. It has not been normal, and
Hmm.
So,
Word.
what is
It's
your
like
take on
Christ
things
has.
being
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
if it? Yeah. So, what's your take on things not because they're not normal? I don't think they're normal, but there does seem to be a shift.
Yeah.
And so, what's your take on that?
I would have to say I do agree with you. There's definitely a shift. What that shift is, I am unsure. I do know that the MAGA movement is growing. That's quite obvious. But that may not be because people are becoming Christian. I think the motive of, I think the concept of economic populism is what's growing the MAGA movement. I think people have suffered financially so much that has been the thing that's really bringing people into the MAGA movement and to this new GOP. I mean, really, it's no longer the grand old party. It's now, great opportunity party. I mean, that's what it is now because of the economic populism. With that being said, though, I do think after all of the insults that Christians have been going through, not just, not just at the Olympics recently, but ever since, I have to say it, but ever since Candace Owens was, whether she was fired or left, the Daily Wire and this insults that we've been getting from across the board, whether it's from the left or from our so-called allies on the right, I do think you're seeing a huge rise in Christianity. And I do think with this new environment that the GOP has created with economic populism, has created this, it gave us an opportunity as Christians to bring more people into the fold. But we can't simply say that, oh, the GOP is the Christian party and the Democrats are the Satan party. That's not entirely true. I mean, you could argue that the left is definitely the Satan party. I mean, their behavior is just quite obvious. But when it comes to the GOP, I mean, there's transgenders for MAGA, there's gays for MAGA, there's, all these, you know, behaviors or people who live in who do these lifestyles, and they're for MAGA. And it's simply because as Americans and for economic populism, we're all on the same side. We just disagree on lifestyle choices. So I do sense that Christianity is coming to the forefront. I do have to agree with Candace Owens that American Christians don't know much about their Christian history. And I don't want to say that, I'm not going to say it's irrelevant, the Christian history. It's not that it's irrelevant, because it's important to know it. But the same way I said, I didn't need to go down that rabbit hole of who created the Federal Reserve and what their beliefs were. I didn't need to go down that rabbit hole to connect the dots that they had for America, considering their whole existence is antithetical to our founding. So as Christians, though it's important, and yes, we should know our history as Christians, the thing that makes American Christians so remarkable isn't its history, isn't Christian history per se, right? It's the fact that we are willing to die we're willing to die on our feet before we live on
Well,
our knees, right? I'm
mhm.
not saying it's not important. I'm just simply saying that's what makes the Christian American so different, right? Christians in other nations, American Christians were more like the Catholic swords and the Catholic knights, ready to
Yeah.
go to war back in the day,
Mhm.
right? They were ready to fight and do what was right. And I think that spirit is reignited. And I think you're seeing a lot of Christians
So would you
that are
say
pissed.
it's like the beginning of the Matrix, it's the red pill and, I mean, the history is
I don't
important.
think we're at the
Eventually
beginning.
well, no, I'm talking about the part where he gets red pilled. So you get red pilled, you're
Right.
part of Zion. So you're
Yeah.
learning the history, but we are in the middle of a fight. You do got to pay attention to the fact that
Right.
Smith
See,
is still an issue.
I think
The history is
we're
relevant,
at the
but we
part
do got to fight Smith first.
where I think we're at the part where Neo goes to meet the Oracle and he sits with that kid where there is no spoon. That's the part of the movie we're at,
Right. So history
right?
is
Because it's like we
relevant,
know where,
but
yeah,
you kind of need to know who you are and why you're important to the fight that
and
we're in.
why you're important, and to recognize what is in front of you
Yeah.
is not actually the thing you're up against in a way. It's like what's in
Yeah.
front of you is an illusion, and you need to see past that illusion in order to make a change, to make a difference, for
And
you to recognize
and
your full power. To
that's
quote Phoenix, I'm at full power, where you're not going to get there
yeah. And I'll
if you
say
stay
this,
so
I think
focused
that is such the
on,
perfect Mhm. Yeah.
the in your face stuff.
And that's perfect because to be honest, with everything that we've said, that it may sound like that, oh, we're talking about a myriad of different subjects, but this started off with whether or not Trump was wrong to question this woman's lies about her race, which her
Yeah.
being black is an illusion. Talking about the fact that she has gotten these positions of power because of merit, that too is an illusion. That she became the nominee for president without an election, and they want people to swoon. That too, that she's a legitimate nominee,
That
that
support.
too
Yep.
is an illusion. Her supporting Bitcoin, that is an illusion. The
Her being
money we
for the
use in
Second
it's
Amendment.
itself, the Federal Reserve's money, that in and of itself, this idea that you have freedom when they control the value of the money and deplete it, this too is an illusion. And we're at the
Yeah.
point now, we're at the
And
point of the movie where
you
you kind of need to
see,
know
there is
there
no
is no
spoon.
spoon. It's right. That's such a perfect way to sum everything up that we've discussed today. So
That it
before
is.
we end this, let's tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you, and more about your podcast and where that they can find that as well.
Well, like I said at the top of the show, Happy Go Lucky with Asia is pretty much a podcast where we're going to look at things from a Christian perspective. I try to start things off with a scripture, but that won't happen all of the time. Whatever triggers that from me, I will have a scripture ready, but it won't be for every episode. But again, I like to have a happy note when we are talking about whatever harsh reality that we're in, whether it be the political scene that we're in right now, whether it's something that we're seeing coming out of culture, because I will be talking a lot about some of the shows that we love so much, and I hope I can come back on here and we can talk Star Trek, some fun subjects. But again, Happy Go Lucky is it's a Christian perspective word. It's a Christian perspective on pretty much everything and anything. I will be talking a little bit about the crypto sector. That's going to be the next episode that I do.
Nice.
Not just about what Trump said, but I do want to talk a lot about where Christians need to be and how more literate in crypto we need to be in order to build up a wealth to compete against our enemies. And I don't mean that in a cultural way either, like movies and television and streaming. I'm like, look, enough of that. We can do it, but there are other things that Christians need to be doing so that way we can shore up our nation to be more of a Christian nation. So we can stop having this conversation of whether or not we are or we're not. But that's pretty much the show. You guys can follow me on X, Asia Branch USA. On Instagram, it's Becoming Brazen USA. But on YouTube, my show again is called Happy Go Lucky with Asia, but my handle is at Asia Branch USA. So you'll probably check me out in some of Archie's comments. You'll see either Happy Go Lucky with Asia or at Asia Branch. You'll see one of those.
Yep, and I will put all of your social media handles and a link to your YouTube channel in the description as well. So that way people can just go straight to the channel and they can support you there as well. Do not forget to support my Twinkster people. If you support me, then you support her too, because she's literally my best bud. We are womb buddies.
Word.
Came into the world
Womb
together.
buddies.
Well, 10 minutes after she
After
did.
the fact. Let's remember that.
I am the baby, people. She came, and then I was 10 minutes after the fact. I was chilling. I wasn't ready yet.
She was chilling. I left. I mean, that's just side note between the two of us. We just told the whole world, but they get it. There is such a thing called twin rivalry, folks.
Like, word. But this was fun, and we should definitely do this again. We're gonna make this a habit. I think I like every Fridays. What do you think?
I like every other Friday. I mean, I like every Friday too, but you know how we can be sometimes, and I have vacation coming up next week. So
yeah, that's true. So it won't happen next Friday. Let's not get everybody excited about it.
Word, and I'm not there.
Word.
The following Friday, I'm all good. I'm all open.
Awesome sauce. So at the very least, we know we're going to do this again. So you guys can look forward to that. And thank you all for watching. Asia, this was awesome sauce. Love you very, very much. And
I guess it was awesome sauce.
So say we all.
So say we all. I know they're like that's
this is Vulcan, and so say we all is not how this goes. No. So live long and prosper. Kepla. And so say we all.
So say we all.
Love you, Twinkster.